Hi guys, it's Nicole and I am super excited to do today's video. I made this layout a while ago. This is a sketch that is from Scrapbook Cards in Today magazine. It's part of their challenge that they put in whatever the current issue is, and you can do the sketch and you can submit your layout and they might pick you to put you in the next issue. Spoiler alert, my layout was not selected, but I really liked the sketch. This is one of those labor of love layouts for me. I had been avoiding editing this just because there was so many clips. It is a longer process video. I think I got it cut down to about 25 minutes, but we're gonna go ahead and get started in the paper choices. These are all petite prints from Doodlebug in a nice bright rainbow color. I am doing the little cardstock trick on my trimmer to make sure that all of these are going to be cut to the same height. Anytime you're supposed to cut something repetitively and then line it up, that math doesn't math for me. Nothing is ever super straight. So I like to put a little, almost like a bumper on my trimmer, and it just allows the paper to sort of have a stopping point, and each piece stops at that same point. So it's the best way that I can set myself up for any sort of semblance of success. Now you can see the sketch over there on the left. I absolutely love those florals. I want to use this sketch again and do the florals, but rotate it and maybe have the strips be horizontal and the florals be at the top. But I stuck pretty close to the orientation of the sketch. However, I am going to go significantly different. Instead of doing the florals, I really wanted to do a scene. If you are new here, I absolutely love scene building. If you are an OG and you've been here for a while, you guys know this. This specific layout is sort of going to check all of the boxes of all of the things that I absolutely love. There's going to be rainbow, tone on tone, die cutting, stamping, stacked alphabet dies, stitching, all the things. I think stenciling was maybe the only thing. So like I said, I'm going to deviate from the florals that are depicted on the sketch, and instead I wanted to do an art themed scene going down that area. I have a bunch of different art supply dies, stamps, splattery type things that I was just really itching to use, and I wanted to do it in rainbow order. So I'm gonna go ahead and take, this is just a cream pattern paper, super old, from Echo Park. I want to say it was from a monthly collection because the back of it says November. I bought a pack of these at Tuesday Morning years ago because it's just a really good, smooth, solid background. And I have this older set. I am pretty sure it's from My Favorite Things. I've got an SOS out in their Facebook group right now asking if anybody knows. It's really old, to the point that it doesn't have the information printed on the packaging. But knowing me and my purchase history, this more than likely was My Favorite Things. They have since come out with some newer versions of this stamp set. There's also, I've seen stencils that have this kind of splattery thing. This is one of those stamp sets that you can you should be able to track down something similar if you're trying to recreate this or you just like the supplies. Anything I can still find or at least name, I'll put down in the description box. If it's something that's old and retired, I like to at least give you the name of it, and you can go hunting on eBay or resale groups on Facebook or something. And yeah, so I do apologize, but I tend to hold on to things like this that I absolutely love and have used over and over and over again. So I just kind of go through and start going in a rainbow order. I am trying to keep in mind that I need to have enough spacing for all 7 colors that I'm putting in this rainbow. So as I get towards the end here, you can see I'm kind of just making sure I've got enough space for those last 3 colors. Choosing that skinnier piece for the yellow really kind of saved me a little bit of room. And For something like this, I do like to stamp with the Distress Oxides. I think that in this application, they just work really well. Because I'm not doing like stamp layering, I don't need to make sure that I'm using like a dye. I wanted sort of that extra opaqueness that the pigment property kind of gives you. And earlier in this clip, I had showed I have like my swatch sheet of all my Distress Oxide inks that I currently own. And I had taken the offcuts of my pattern papers and matched up as close as I could to the colors. Now I'm going to go back through and fill in and just kind of build out all these little like paint splatters and add more color, so that the yellow, I wanted it to have like as equal of a presence as some of the other ones. I'm also picking different shape stamps, so things that are more like brush strokes or skinny. I just like to have like a mix of different stuff. Some of the stamps I did use more than once. I just rotated them so that you're seeing the other side of it and it looks like it's a different stamp. So I just kind of fill in until I feel like it's where I want it to be. I'm also trying to, it's upside down here, so when I say left, it's actually on the right, but I am trying to fill it towards that outer edge margin as much as I can, because I know I'm going to be putting stamped images, die cut pieces, and stuff on top of this layer. This is part of scene building that I don't think I explain very well, but I tend to start with this like back layer. And I tend to want it to be flat, so like stenciling or stamping, and then I build on top of it. This specific stamp is like a bunch of splatters, so I just kind of cut it in half to have it be where half of it was orange, half of it is red. I'm just kind of nestling things in here and there, kind of taking advantage of a lot of those little smaller splatters. Some of these are coming from a newer set that is still available for My Favorite Things, which is the Distressed Patterns. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and start attaching all of my rainbow pattern paper strips. And I want to say these are 1x10. And I'm only putting adhesive down the middle because I wanted to do stitching. I don't remember if I listed that in like my favorite things at the beginning of the video. I very much enjoy hand stitching, especially the end result. It does take time. It does take a little bit of patience. It's one of those things that I will, I'll take it downstairs and just kind of work on it here and there when I have the time. And then so I've said this before, a lot of times I feel like I need a border or like a finished edge when I have something like this where it's pattern paper meeting a scene. So I cut out those pencils from the pattern paper that had all the rainbow pencils on it, and I just made sure that it was going to be whatever color that last strip was going to be, and in this instance it was pink. I did go ahead and drew pencil lines for where I was going to put my stitching. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't. I think it just kind of depends on my mood or how straight I want it to be. I think if I do pencil lines and I use a ruler or a straight edge or something, like I said, I'm setting myself up for as much success as I possibly can. But yeah, I go through, poke out my holes, and I did my stitching tone on tone. So pink stitches in the pink area, purple stitches in the purple area. And I did cut out a lot of the stamping just because it took me a couple days to go through and make a bunch of crayons and colored pencils. But I got a lot of YouTube watching done. And for these, I pulled out my Pink Fresh Studio ink cubes because they come in like four inks to a color family, so it kind of takes the work of picking colors for layering stamps. So I just did this method that you see a lot in card making videos where you use the negative of cutting out the dies and kind of do like an assembly line with all of your different layers. So here I'm just showing the pink one. I did this exact same process with every other color crayon, and I repeated it again with the colored pencil. Both of those are from a Sunny Studio stamp set called Color My World. Again, pretty sure that's still available, so I'll link it. And then these dies are from Spellbinders. I shop their warehouse sales. It just so happens when I sat down today and I was checking my email, they're actually having a sale on a lot of this stuff again, I think today through next Wednesday. So I will definitely link to the ones that I used in this video, and then I'll see if I can pull like a link that goes straight to whatever's on sale, because a lot of the floral dies that I bought that I'm going to be using in my next layout, or it might be, I don't know what order my videos are going to come out. It'll be coming out soon. I'm going to use a bunch of floral dies from Spellbinders that, again, I shop their sales. Most of them are still available, and I want to say they're like 40 or 50% off. So I do try to tell you guys when things like this go on sale, because to me, tools and things like this are pretty expensive. And my method is to invest in things that I know that I will use over and over again, and that the themes and the style are things that I naturally gravitate towards and have useful applications with my personal crafting choices, if that makes sense. Because I was doing a lot of like little tiny dies back and forth, I grabbed this little mini die cut machine that I have. I think it's Gemini, and was using that to kind of cut some additional pieces that I was needing. Now from there, I'm going to get into sort of building the scene. This is something that I get a lot of questions on, but not necessarily specific questions. I get a lot of comments that say like, I love watching you build a scene. I want to learn how to do this, that kind of thing. Not really like specific questions that I can kind of answer. And I'm kind of toying in the back of my mind of possibly doing like a class or like a mini class on scenes and kind of how I approach them. So like I said before, I like to start with whatever kind of like the background image is going to be. Almost like what you would see in the background of like a cartoon. So like when you're watching like old Garfield or like Tom and Jerry, and you kind of see like almost like the painted picture that's in the background is what my brain kind of thinks. So a lot of times I'll do something where it's like a brick background, or maybe it's clouds, something that's stenciled or stamped. More than likely it's going to be something flat. It might be pattern paper, and I tend to try to find something that is going to work with my theme. In this instance, I am basically finding places that I think that the crayons look good, filling it in from there with more what I would say neutral or generic pieces. So these are going to be my paint brushes that don't have paint on them, the paint tubes. One of them does have orange on it because I wanted one of them to sort of represent one of the color ways, but this is what I do is I just kind of try things out. Because that edge of the pink paper is stitched, I can't just shove everything under there and tuck it in. So I'm using my pencil to mark where the edges, where like the straight edge of the pattern paper is going to be. And then I'm just trimming it with scissors so that I can just get it tucked underneath that lip between the edge of the paper and my stitching. And I just try to tuck things to where I want things to touch other layers. I want some things to go further out. I want some things to be short. Like, this is the part that I have a hard time explaining, but I did leave kind of this entire process just so that you can kind of see what I'm doing, even though it's sped up. A lot of times, if I am cutting off the end of something like a pencil, I'm going to go ahead and rotate the other piece and see if I can use both. So like the blue pencil isn't two pencils, it's just the one that I cut, rotated it so that you're seeing the eraser and the pointed end. And I just keep going until it's full, but I'm also keeping in mind that I still want to see enough of that stamped splattery background to have it read as a stamped splattery background. I don't want to completely cover it. I want it to be a layer, and I want it to be a visible layer. From there, I decided to go ahead and add some paint to these little skinny paintbrushes. I didn't do it when I was building the paintbrushes because I wasn't sure what part of the rainbow they were gonna, where they were gonna end up at. So I waited until I had picked sort of the area that they were gonna be in before I sort of assigned them a color. After I've got all of those pieces tucked in, I can go ahead and put my little finishing edge piece on here. And this is one of those things that I will make sure that it is glued down very well. Here are my two photos. Typically I start with my photos. In this instance, they didn't show up until towards the end of the process. I have a photo of the picture that my daughter drew, and she won a contest to design the t-shirt for the major fundraiser that they do for their color run. And so I have a picture of the day that they announced that she was the winner, and she got her t-shirt with her picture on it. And it was, I don't know, it was a really fun day. They had called me a couple weeks prior to the ceremony to let me know that she won, and I had to keep it a secret until that morning. And I don't know, it was exciting that she won the contest. She is very much into art and creating things and painting and drawing and all those things. So that was one of the reasons that I was excited to kind of pull out art-themed supplies to create a scene with, because in this application, it really leans into the subject of my photos, if that makes sense. For my title, I am going to pair this Altenew alphabet stamp set with a die set from Scrapbook.com. I believe it's the typewriter font. I'm really liking this Altenew one. To me, it's pretty easy to line up. I think it's because the actual stamps for each letter are actually on like a rectangle of the stamp material, if that makes sense. Like if you have alphabet stamps, you kind of know what I mean. If the actual stamp material follows the shape of the stamp, sometimes they can get like out of alignment when you go to use them, and then when you go to die cut them, nothing lines up. These have where like the layer that sticks to your acrylic block or your stamp platform is like a rectangle that just cannot get out of shape. And that is something that somebody like me really appreciates, because then when I go to line up the dies, it is super easy and very hard for me to mess up. I've still got my mini die cut machine out, so I'm just using that to go ahead and cut these out. Something like this, I don't mind doing them one at a time. Normally, I'll sit here and tape them all down and run them through my Big Shot. This was one of those things that was just kind of easier to do them one at a time. And for these, I think I just used black ink to stamp those, and then I've got black textured cardstock to die cut the other portion of my title. And the title, I got part of it from, there's an ebook called A Writing to Remember from Scrapbook Generation and Allison Davis. It is a beefy ebook. I keep it in my Google Drive, and I think the only file in the entire book that I've really like delved into is the section on titles. And so I just took work of art from that and added she is a work of art, because I felt like I wanted the emphasis to be on her. And then with this being such a specific event or topic, I was struggling for the title. So in the end, I went with this and I really liked it. Things like this, my photos are going to be a little bit wonky, so I want to make sure that my title is going to be straight. So I'm going to use a T-square ruler to make sure that that's lined up. I've mentioned this before. I use cut up silhouette mats as sticky mats. These work really good to hold your letters while you're gluing them together, and then I will line them up on one of the grid lines and move the sticky mat around on my layout to like audition them. I think it's a little bit easier than like the washi tape or post-it tape method that I've done as well. That tends to be a little bit floppy for me, and sometimes I'll lose letters and then I have to go cut them out again. So I like the fact that they stick to this pretty well and it's see-through, so I can move it around, and then the fact that it has that pre-printed grid on there is really helpful too. This thing kind of just stays on my desk and I keep finding different things to use it for. So I may need to go and order another pack. Basically, it's 3 packs of silhouette mats. I take one of them, I cut it down to fit into my MISTI. It kind of lives in there until it's not sticky anymore. And then the offcuts are what I use for this type of application. For the little skinny alphabet, I'm going to go ahead and just use tweezers to kind of keep my fingers out of the glue. And the tweezers come in handy too to kind of push things into place a little bit. And then because they have that pointed edge, I can kind of scrape any of the like glue that oozes out. And then I did make sure that I didn't lose that little teeny tiny dot to the letter I. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and work on my journaling. I did print it twice. I printed it with black text on white background and then white text on black background. Because I've got all that rainbow going on, I knew that I wanted things like my title and my journaling to be a neutral, and I wanted them to be bold so that they would stand out. I still couldn't make a decision on my journaling, so I printed it twice on the Google Sheets that I formatted to fit this Hero Arts sentiment die. I've talked about this before. I have a video on this. I love this thing. So I printed both, and then I'm going to go and kind of audition both options and see which one I like. I think in this instance I took pictures, because sometimes for me I need to walk away, go sit in the pickup line, look at my pictures, kind of make a decision. Once I made a decision, I went ahead with the black background ones. I just felt like they had a more like bold presence. And I'm gonna use foam strips. These are from scrapbook.com. I'm gonna put them on the back of all of my journaling strips. I want them to not get lost. A lot of times when I do scene building, it can feel like one area is really interesting, has a lot of texture, and is kind of pulling your attention. So I want to make the other parts of my layout still have the focus. So I want my photos to be big enough that they have the presence. I want my title and my journaling to not compete with everything else. And I think at the end result, I really love how this came out. As soon as I made it, I was like immediately wanting to edit the video and share with you guys. But like I said, I had submitted it to like the reader's call, and I wasn't sure if I could edit it and share it. As time progressed, I was like, okay, clearly my layout wasn't chosen, which 100% totally fine. It was more of like, I just needed to know, can I go ahead and edit this? I think the issue comes out next month, so I'm gonna say it's safe to assume that my layout did not make the cut. However, I absolutely love this sketch. Like I said, I think I'm gonna do something else with it. At this point is when I tend to go and check and see, okay, do I want to add any like little embellishments? I decided against that, but I did find a couple areas that I felt like needed a little bit more of the like paint splatter to kind of show up. So I took some of the smaller images and an acrylic block, and I'm just going to kind of go through and add, I think I added some in the blue and some in the purple. And then at the very end, I was like, man, it just needs something else. And so I decided to get a black pattern paper. I believe this is a Halloween paper from maybe Bella Boulevard. I'm not 100% sure. And I matted the whole thing. And then I went in with glossy accents. No, that's not glossy accents. I think it's just the clear. It's the clear Nouveau. So whatever color that's called. And I called it done. I absolutely love how this came out. It's kind of, like I said, checking all the boxes for all of my personal favorite things to do. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it was a longer video. If you stayed till the end, I appreciate it. Leave me any questions you have down below, and I will catch you guys in another video.